Hi everyone, thanks for coming, thanks for joining me. I found a video which I think is going to be very useful. It's called 7 must-know tips for the over 50s. Now you're not going to believe this, but I'm actually over 50, so this should be great for me. It's by a lady called Lauren Bateman, who I've watched before. She's great, she's a great trainer, great tutor. Apologies if I keep looking and put my monitor up there. Let's start and see what Lauren's got to teach us. Can't wait for this. This is going to be good.
Enthusiasts, in this video lesson I'm going to be going over 7 tips for older learners learning to play the guitar today. Let's get into the lesson.
Well, nice Gretsch there in the background. Is that a falcon? We know whose house to come and burgle, don't we? Anyway, let's get into it.
So I have many students
graphics
that email me from time to time. You know, they're in their 60s, they're in their 70s, some are even in their 80s. I actually have a couple guys that are in their 90s that I work.
No mention of 50s, and this was the over 50s. So, is that 50 to 59? Okay, not looking so good all of a sudden. But let's give it a go. Let's see what she's got to tell us.
So you're never too old to start learning guitar. But they oftentimes have questions because they're concerned about their age. They wish they did this 20 or 30 years ago. But I'm going to go over some tips here for older learners who are trying to learn the guitar. These are my suggestions and things that I help my students with that they've found helpful on their journey. So let's get started.
Should be good.
Tip number 1, make sure that you warm up before playing guitar. So
don't you warm up as naturally when you're practicing or playing?
In my 7-level guitar system, I have lots of different like finger exercises and different ups and down exercises, things to warm up the fingers, particularly when you're older. Your joints can be stiffer. I have lots of students who have arthritis, and playing the guitar can be helpful with arthritis. But I always tell students, you know, especially today, it's a cold day here in Boston, warm up your hands. I have some students that use a heater to warm up their hands, get blood flow into the hands, and then start off with a very...
Sounds like they may have passed on.
Simple 5-minute warm-up, maybe a nice little spider exercise. Okay, I'll put a link up here if you guys don't know a spider exercise of a simple one you can do, because all
I'm
a
not
warm-up
finding it
does
particularly
is it gets
applicable.
the fingers moving. So make sure to warm up your hands and just get them moving, particularly if you have arthritis. It can really help out
those fingers
getting the
moving,
joints
everyone.
going and getting those fluids moving and make playing the guitar
Likes
a
are
little
always
bit more
welcome.
comfortable. Tip number 2, make sure you simplify your lessons when you start. Now, I know a lot of students who reach out to me, they're older learners, they feel frustrated, they feel like they want to give up with the guitar. And a lot of that stems from older learners starting with 3-finger chords, these 3-finger C chord, G chord, D chord. These 3-finger chords, especially for someone who's older and again has arthritis,
Oh my God,
they
if they
can be
can't,
very, very hard for you to do. I have many students who, because of their arthritis, can't even play those chords. So
if they can't even play 3 strings, are they really going to learn how to play the guitar? Are they really going to learn it properly? Yeah, I suppose you can get something out of it, but if you can't even play 3 strings, I'd be a bit worried. But no, I get this because sometimes I look for simplified versions, not necessarily 2-fingered chords, but if something's complicated I might look for an easier version, like not having to bar an F or something like that. So
I use simplified chords when I start out with students. Usually they're 2-finger chords. I also have 1-finger chords for students with really, really bad
that's just lazy.
Finger pain and stuff, but most of my students can get by with these 2-finger chords, which make playing the guitar fun for students in the beginning.
Is everyone over 50 so decrepit in her eyes? Are all her over 50 students really this decrepit?
while you develop more flexibility and dexterity in your fingers. Because again, older fingers, you're less nimble, you're less flexible. So
That's interesting, because I read something just today that said young players don't have the dexterity and the reach and the strength of older players. Who's right?
So my goal with my older students is, hey, let's just get the fingers moving. Let's start building some flexibility. Let's start building strength, okay? Because when you play guitar, you're going to start using your hand muscles more, which can help with arthritis and actually can help make your fingers stronger. I have many adult students that have, weak tendons, or they have nerve damage, or they have a hand injury, and they're using the guitar to help them rebuild strength in their hands, and that can help. So that is a recommendation.
Does she like teach in a war veterans hospital or something? All these injuries
that I have for older learners.
Before we continue with the video, can I just remind you to take a moment to like, comment on, and share the video with your friends. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.
Tip number 3, keep your practice sessions short. Most beginners can't really...
Keep this short, because you're so old. It's a bit of a risk. I mean, anything longer than 15 minutes and you're in trouble. At their age, it's a risk watching a new show on Netflix, isn't it? I mean, you might never get to see the second episode of the series. Really?
Practice for a long time anyway, because of the finger pain that is associated with getting started with the guitar. I promise that finger pain will go away. You just have to form calluses on your fingertips. So oftentimes, even for beginner students that aren't older, I recommend practicing for 10 to 15 minutes. Now, for those of you that are older and again suffer from arthritis and have finger pain, you may not be able to do more than 10 or 15 minutes.
But those of us that are older and perfectly fine, Lauren. What are we supposed to do?
And that's perfectly fine. What I tell you to do is do what you can and have fun as soon as possible.
Have fun with your decrepit old fingers.
You have to practice for an hour. You don't. I don't even practice for an hour.
Not even Lauren.
It's better to do more short sessions
than
really long sessions, because when you're older, repetition is your friend, okay?
So she's talking about learning and about brain plasticity here. And I think it's certainly true that in your teens and your right up to your mid-20s, you've got more of that. But you can teach an old dog new tricks. In fact, guitars have been shown, learn to play instruments, especially guitars, have been shown to increase that plasticity again, to sort of give a bit of a rebirth to the brain.
As we get older, we get more forgetful. We don't memorize things as easily as we used to.
Speak for yourself.
So I always teach students in chunks and sections. Let's focus on learning these 4 chords and these 4 chords only. All right?
Probably good advice.
And when you do that, you're able to do that in a short lesson time instead of trying to memorize like 12 or 13 chords. So I always tell students, if you're practicing for 15 minutes, spend 5 minutes on your warm-up. Okay, either doing some picking exercises or some dexterity exercises. So we're working on dexterity and warm up for the first 5 minutes. Spend 5 minutes working on either your chords or your chord changes, and then spend the last 5 minutes on another exercise or working on a song. End on something fun. But I always tell them, break your practice up into little 5-minute segments.
Totally agree with that. So, I mean, that's 15 minutes, but you could times those by 4 if you're doing an hour a day, or by 2 if you're doing 30 minutes a day. That's all cool. That's exactly what I do. Start with moving randomly from chords, maybe some scales. That's exactly it.
And if you do that 3, 4, or 5 times a week, I promise you'll get much better than if you just sat down for an hour. And playing through pain is not fun, so never play through pain on the guitar. Do what you can and have fun with what you can do, not always what you can't do. Hey, hope you're enjoying these tips for older learners. Just a reminder, I do have a 7-level guitar course. If you're interested
come on,
in
Lauren.
learning guitar in
Sell
a
it to me, baby. Sell it to me.
Way,
hard sell. Sell.
Go check that out.
Always be selling. Always be finishing.
Tip number 4, put lighter gauge strings on your guitar or play an electric. Now,
Totally agree with both of those. Even lighter gauge on your electric. I don't know why people always tell you to start off with an acoustic, because it's the hardest thing to play. You get fret buzz really easily. Unless it's nylon strung, then those big steel strings cause real problems. Press a lot lighter with an electric, and there's more sort of to be had in terms of technique, like vibrato, etc. Because you can get away with a very, very light touch. So I totally agree with her there. Never understood why everyone thinks you need to start with an acoustic. To me, an acoustic's a sort of intermediate thing.
The thicker the strings on a guitar, the harder it is to press down on a guitar. So going with very light gauge strings, so something like a 9 or a 10 would be recommended on an acoustic, or get an electric
9 or 10 for an electric. Let's get her Gretsch. In fact, when she's not looking, have it.
guitar. Electric guitar strings are much thinner, they're easier to press, and electric guitars in general are much easier to play and require less strength than an acoustic guitar. The other thing you can do when you buy your guitar, whether you have an acoustic or an electric, one, get lighter strings, but go someplace where they can set your guitar up and lower the action. The action is the distance between the strings and the fretboard. So the closer the strings are to the fretboard, the easier it is to press the strings and make chords. So that is something that can help you. So if you have an electric guitar, go to your lutherer, tell them you
Go to your lutherer, yes. Where's your lutherer? I keep mine in the basement. And throw him scraps. But you can go to the guitar shop you bought it from, and use your local guitar shops. I know it's challenging to challenging. I know it's tempting to buy things online, but support local guitar shops because you'll miss them when they're not there. Give you loads of advice. When I bought my last acoustic, I bought the one that was in the shop because it was perfectly set up. But they'll set it up for probably about £30, $20-30. I mean, they won't do anything like level frets or anything, but they might lower the action some. They might take away some of the burring, make it more comfortable. But yes, take it to your luthier if you got one.
want your strings as close as they can possibly be to the fretboard without buzzing, and it will make playing the guitar much easier for you.
Remember to subscribe
the strength
to her
what you need to do
and to
on
me.
the guitar.
Well, that's it for part 1 of that video. Stick around for what people are already calling part 2 shortly. If you did enjoy it, why not like it, comment on it, and even subscribe to my channel? It'd be very much appreciated. See you in a future video. Thank you very much. Bye now.